Welcome back to West Texas View.
Welcome back to the West Texas View. I'm Johnny Lou Avery, and Karen Whittemire is the author of a brand new book just out and on the book shelves right now for you to purchase at either the Christian bookstores or the mainstream bookstores. And Karen, I want you to wind up our program by talking about a little bit more about the plot and how you drew it all together, how you got it to all come out and live happily ever after.
Sure. Well, I love happily ever afters. I like that happy ending. So all of my books will have a very happy ending. But we have to put them through some stressful situations in order to help them work through some of their issues that they're dealing with. And they go through a few adventures. I'm not going to give away all the plot, but they really come to appreciate each other's point of view, especially as they look at this whole situation of what defines beauty, as that's kind of what tears them apart at the beginning. They really start to see things from the other person's point of view. Hannah starts to appreciate Jericho's concerns. Jericho starts to appreciate what she can bring out in people. There's another character in the book who is an old gentleman who has lost his wife, and he is just steeped in grief, and he has lost all motivation to take care of himself, so his personal hygiene has just deteriorated, and he's stinky, he's smelly, and he's dirty, yet she reaches out to him. She's
and
one of the few people.
Everybody else rejected it.
That's right.
And she didn't, and then made him a new shirt.
That's right.
And that changed his whole life.
It did. He really started caring about himself
and
again.
she asked him to go to take her to church.
That's right. That's right. And so that relationship kind of woke Jericho up to think, maybe there's more to her than just this fluff that I was expecting. Maybe there's some real spiritual depth to this woman. And so he starts looking at her a little more seriously.
But one of the things that I kept noticing about this as I was reading it is that he was having this conflict inside, and he was saying, well, she's vain, but she did this, and so all these things he was noticing. But then there were a lot of other things that happened, like a flash flood that caused a real crisis in the community. And then there was the picnic, the community picnic, and all of us can remember either a community picnic or dinner on the grounds or something like that.
Those were really very important to the communities back then, a chance for everyone to get together and celebrate.
And the food that they took.
Oh, yes.
The elaborate, and the games they played. You even researched the kinds of games they played.
Absolutely, yes.
And talked about that. And the fact that she made a kite to carry for all the kids to play with was another thing that endeared her to him. And so there were just a number of things. But the twist that came in that was one of the characters that I least suspected that had a challenge that he had to overcome, and that was developed by you, and he became both kind of a pitied character as well as a scary character at one point.
Right.
But then again, that turned out all right.
Well, I like to show that people have different nuances. People aren't all bad or all good. We all have our flaws. We all have things we can improve on. We also have good traits that could kind of get twisted into negative traits if we're not careful. And that's what one of these characters has to deal with. Is he has feelings that could turn into something that could be pure and beautiful, but instead his selfishness and greed gets in the way, and it really turns ugly.
But the crisis that brought it to a head is resolved, and again, Jericho did it, and he resolved it so that everybody
have to have that happy ending.
Yes, that's right. And the little children that were characterized in here were beautiful. The little laundresses, 3 children that Hannah, who was the main character, eventually began to teach to sew and some of the other
she liked
things.
to help them out. It was they lived right next door, and Hannah had thought maybe someday I'd like to have children of my own, but I'm really a career woman, so I'm not sure that that's going to be available to me. And so she really had a chance to open up to these children and accept them into her life and try to make their lives better by teaching them a trade and by encouraging them and befriending them.
And then as we get toward the end of the book, and and they began to see that there may be a little bit more. Then the sister, who Hannah had helped, becomes almost like the matchmaker. She's the one that's beginning to get her brother and Hannah together.
Right.
So, but tell us again now. Bethany Press is the
Bethany House. Yes,
Bethany House is the publishers.
That's correct.
And they were instrumental in designing this book cover, which is beautiful. It shows a beautifully dressed woman in the 1880s with a cowboy standing on her beautiful velvet hem. And so you get the flavor of the book right off the bat by just looking at it, and it looks like a ribbon title. So they really did a good job.
They did
artwork.
Wonderful. Yes.
And next week we're going to be talking about how you went about getting published and some of the other ways. And one of the things that we've talked about is people that self-publish don't have this kind of help, because that's one of the things that sells a book, is people that haven't heard about it and are just thumbing through the books, is the catchiness of the cover.
Right. They always say don't judge a book by a cover, but we do it every day.
That's true. And tell us a little bit about the upcoming books you have. I know that you've got a contract. Again, it's almost unheard of for a new author to be at such a prestigious publishing house, but to get a contract right off the bat to do 3 books is absolute. I don't know that you really understand how amazing that is.
Well, I do feel incredibly blessed. It's just such a wonderful opportunity. And the second book is coming out in September. It's called Head in the Clouds, and it's kind of my version of a Regency romance meets a Western romance. So we have a hero from England who comes to Texas to run a sheep ranch and has to fit in with everybody else that's there already. But it's going to be a fun adventure, I think. I have a third book that I'm currently writing that will come out probably next summer in 2010 or 2011. And so we're looking forward to having these 3 books out. It's going to be a fun adventure, I think.
And probably by that time they may package them for Christmas as a trilogy.
Well, I don't know if they will or not, because they're not a series. Each book stands alone by itself.
Good point.
But they're all set in the same period, and so there's some similarities too.
Well, this has been so interesting to me to hear about this book, particularly after I read it. Her home base is in Abilene, and that's how I got to meet her. And so I am just delighted that I was able to introduce her to the Permian Basin before anybody else had a chance maybe to even see her book. But be sure and go by the bookstores. Any of the Christian bookstores are the bookstore, the mainstream bookstores will have her books. We'll see you next week with another program, and on that program we're going to talk about how to get published and how to write books. We'll see you then. Okay, great.
Avery. This has been a public affairs presentation of KWAB TV and KWES TV.